Hello, and welcome to Dreamy Tales, a sanctuary where everyone can experience calm and a touch of magic before gently drifting into sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another enchanting journey, a story that helps soothe the mind and nurture a sense of peace. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a comforting, restorative rest. Make yourself cozy, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, let the cares of the day gradually slip away. It's not always easy to step back from the day's demands, especially as night falls. Yet, remember, the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the simpler it is for our minds to release any remaining tension. Allow the gentle flow of your breathing to wash away lingering concerns, and let the story ahead guide you into a state of deep relaxation. Now, settle in, and let the dreamy atmosphere softly wrap around you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into a peaceful, restful slumber here on Dreamy Tales.
Elias arrived, his backpack still a familiar weight upon his shoulders, a vessel carrying anticipation into the heart of the rainforest retreat. A thirst for the novel, the undiscovered, had drawn him to the northeastern cusp of the Yucatan Peninsula, where the coastline promised untamed natural splendor. His plans hummed with potential. Hikes shared with kindred spirits, long bicycle rides painted by sunset hues, snorkeling amidst kaleidoscopic sea life. Yet, before the grand adventure unfurled, Elias craved stillness. His paramount aim, to quiet the internal chatter before venturing into the vibrant unknown. Having completed the check-in formalities at his resort, he approached the concierge, a young man whose easy smile complemented his crisp white linen shirt and tan trousers. Fortune favored him. The resort boasted a spa of world renown. Elias inquired about securing a treatment. "I shall arrange a water journey for you," the young man offered, his smile deepening with kindness. A water journey? The phrase resonated with Elias, simple yet imbued with a delightful promise. He found himself recalling a sentiment from Leonardo da Vinci. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. He accepted the earliest available appointment. The timing proved serendipitous, affording him just enough interlude to locate his room, shed his pack, and arrange his possessions within this temporary haven. The concierge's instructions for the water journey were precise. Comfortable swimwear and the white robe awaiting him in his room. Unpacked and suitably attired, Elias made his way toward the spa. He passed through a tall glass door and was immediately enveloped by the clean, camphorous scent of eucalyptus. He inhaled deeply, filling his lungs with the soothing fragrance, letting his gaze wander, absorbing the space. Walls bathed in muted earth tones met flooring crafted from stranded bamboo. Through the very center of the reception area meandered a small stream, its waters murmuring over smooth stones. A liquid lullaby inducing tranquility. Elias had frequented spas before, yet this one possessed an allure, an invitation. unlike any he'd previously encountered. Behind the reception desk stood a woman with eyes like dark pools and rich chestnut hair coiled into a sleek bun. Her uniform, an elegant white, bespoke professionalism. She greeted Elias with genuine warmth, introducing herself as Solana. She would be his guide on this day's water journey. Solana presented a tiny glass of cool green liquid offered upon a silver tray. A room temperature tea, she explained, specifically formulated for relaxation. Elias took a tentative sip. Cucumber and mint danced on his palate, underscored by a fleeting sweetness he couldn't quite place. He finished the elixir and returned the empty glass to the tray. Smiling, Solana beckoned him to follow. They proceeded down a hallway, passing through an ornately carved wooden door. Along the way, Elias attuned his ears to the soft soundtrack, drifting from unseen speakers, a delicate symphony of avian chirps, interwoven with the peaceful rustling of leaves, nature's own composition. The water journey officially commenced in a softly illuminated area. Solana's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, though they were quite alone. His initiation, she explained, would be in the sauna. From a nearby cabinet, she retrieved a misting bottle labeled lemongrass water. She then guided Elias into a glass enclosure. The interior, lined entirely with cedar wood planks, smelled fresh and arboreal. 3 empty benches awaited. Elias chose the one positioned centrally. Solana draped a long white towel over it. He lay down, face upwards, settling into the embrace of the wood. Soon, the sauna's heat began to bloom against his bare skin. Taking a deep, slow breath, Elias noted the warmth of the air as it entered his nostrils, a pleasant sensation. He closed his eyes, allowing Solana to place a cool, damp cloth over them. "Would you care for a lemongrass mist?" she inquired softly. He smiled his assent, murmuring thanks. She spritzed the fragrant mist over him, wonderfully refreshing, divinely scented, like sweet herbs mingling with crisp citrus fruit. Solana informed him she would return in a few minutes, leaving the bottle of lemongrass mist within reach should he desire another spritz. He lay suspended in the moment, surrendering to the warmth and the phantom sounds of the tropical rainforest drifting through the spa's serene atmosphere. Later, a light tap on his arm signaled Solana's return. When she asked how he felt, words were superfluous. His wide, utterly relaxed grin conveyed everything. He removed the cool cloth from his eyes to find another tiny glass, presented on the silver tray. This time, the liquid glowed orange. "Tangerine ginger infused water," Solana announced. Elias drank it all, savoring the cool path it traced down his throat, a refreshing sensation that radiated outwards through his entire body. He stood, and Solana retrieved the lemongrass mister. Pointing the nozzle skyward, she sent 2 puffs of fragrance into the air. Elias intuitively walked through the aromatic cloud, breathing in the scent anew. It sparked a small, bright burst of happiness within him. Solana then motioned for him to follow her to another room. Here, light blue iridescent tiles, each the size of a coin, covered floor, walls, ceiling, and even the built-in seating, creating a shimmering mosaic. In the room's center stood a large glass bowl on a pedestal, heaped with glistening ice. Elias took a seat, watching as Solana unfolded a small, damp cloth of pure cotton. She set it beside him, then scooped a handful of ice. Gently, she placed the ice in the cloth's center, gathered the corners, and twisted the top tightly. The resulting bundle reminded Elias fleetingly of foil-wrapped chocolates. As if sensing his thought, Solana murmured, "An ice kiss." She handed it to him, explaining the exfoliation benefits derived from the cool, textured cloth against the skin. She would return shortly, she assured him. Elias pressed the ice kiss against his shoulder, slowly gliding it down the length of his arm to his wrist. His body, still radiating warmth from the sauna, found the sensation invigorating rather than shockingly cold. He repeated the process on his other arm, then traced the cool dampness across the back of his neck. By the time he finished, the ice kiss had almost completely melted, leaving him holding an empty, wet cloth. He placed it atop his head, relishing the lingering coolness. A moment later, Solana reappeared, this time bearing a small saucer containing translucent aloe vera gel. She encouraged Elias to apply it liberally. He did so, smoothing the cool, silken gel over his skin with both hands, a lovely textural counterpoint to the ice kiss exfoliation. Solana granted him a few more minutes of solitude before returning once more with the silver tray. The liquid in the tiny glass was a deep, rich red. Strawberry cinnamon water, Solana identified it, a combination of flavors entirely new to Elias. He gladly drank the concoction, deciding instantly it was his favorite thus far. Now, it was time for another transition, the steam room. This phase of the journey included a special treatment for Elias's face. Solana presented him with a small jar filled with light brown clay. Using gestures, she demonstrated the application, pretending to dip her fingers into the jar, then swiping them across her own face. Taking his cue, Elias scooped out some of the cool substance, rubbing it gently onto his forehead, cheeks, and chin. It smelled surprisingly fruity. Solana explained the facial mask was crafted from pomegranate, abundant in antioxidants, the source of the fragrance. This was blended with sea kelp, lending the distinctive pale brown color. Elias allowed the mask to settle onto his skin, asking himself silently, "Why haven't I tried this before?" He imagined he could already feel his skin relaxing, softening beneath the mineral-rich layer. The steam room itself was enveloped in darkness. Its layout mirrored the ice room, yet the coin-sized tiles were a deep navy blue, and tiny lights twinkled in the ceiling, mimicking a captive constellation. The temperature was similar to the sauna's heat, but the quality was vastly different. Where the sauna was arid, the steam room was anything but. Solana spread a fresh white towel over a tiled lounge chair. Elias lay down upon it, closing his eyes. Next, Solana placed 2 cool cucumber slices atop his eyelids, whispering that she would retrieve him in a few minutes. He used the time to reflect, to allow his mind to clear further. The face mask began to tingle, ever so slightly. It felt good, he decided. This sensation of being pampered, breathing in the gentle steam that wafted softly through the chamber. Solana soon returned, entering the humid warmth with yet another small glass of liquid on the silver tray. Pink this time, delicious, tangy hibiscus lemonade. Once Elias had placed his empty glass upon the tray, Solana motioned for him to follow her once more. They moved into a room tiled entirely in pristine white. Above, spaced a few feet apart, hung 2 large rainfall shower heads. From beside each, a beaded metal rope dangled. Solana explained. The shower on the left offered an invigoratingly cool cascade, while the one on the right provided warm, toasty comfort. She assured Elias he needn't choose. He could, and indeed should, experience both. The cool shower proved perfect for rinsing away the remnants of aloe vera gel and the drying facial mask, while the warm shower offered profound comfort. So comforting, in fact, that Elias lingered, savoring the enveloping heat. There was no sense of urgency. Solana was content to wait outside until he felt ready to continue. After emerging from the rainfall shower room, Solana offered Elias a small glass of delicate peach tea and a soft cranberry orange cookie. He popped the cookie into his mouth, consuming it in a single bite. It was astonishing how much vibrant flavor could be packed into such a modest treat. He grinned, a spontaneous expression reminiscent of childhood, recalling the cranberry muffins his grandmother used to bake around the holidays. Solana smiled back at him and once again indicated he should follow her to a new area. This was the second to last room, and the smallest they had entered thus far. However, it seemed to represent a synthesis of the best elements from the preceding chambers. The floors were cedar, echoing the sauna. In the center rested a tiled lounger, similar to the one in the ice kiss room. Only this time its surface gleamed in a shiny beige hue. Twinkling stars, reminiscent of the steam room, were embedded in the ceiling above, and the ambient temperature felt utterly ideal. Solana placed a dry towel upon the tiled lounger. This particular chair was shaped subtly differently than the others Elias had encountered. This one, she implied, was specifically designed with zero-gravity principles in mind, intended to alleviate pressure in key areas such as the lower back. Elias knew the routine now. He lay down and instantly felt a pleasant warmth radiating upwards. The tiles of this lounger were heated. Solana gently set a delicate lavender-scented pillow across his eyes and proceeded to give him a gentle scalp massage that lasted several blissful minutes. Then she placed a light, soft blanket over him and murmured that she would return later. During this interval, Elias felt his body surrender into an even deeper state of relaxation. He rested his hands just below his chest, fingers loosely interlaced, sinking into the lounger's supportive contours. He experienced a peculiar paradox, feeling simultaneously heavy, grounded, yet light and feathery, almost buoyant. For once, his mind was gloriously empty, All he could perceive was tranquility. All he could imagine was peace. Grateful for having no plans for the evening, Elias allowed himself to truly relax, savoring this profound immersion in self-care. He wished it could last indefinitely. As he lay upon the lounger, he continued to do nothing but breathe, consciously, deliberately, in and out. Every muscle in his body felt loose, liberated. Even his toes were relaxed. As minutes slipped by, Elias felt as though he were letting go, layer by layer, detaching further from his everyday routines, sinking ever more deeply into the embrace of the lounge chair. He took a full, expansive breath in, feeling his chest and stomach rise. He became acutely aware of every sensation accompanying the gentle rhythm of respiration. As he absorbed the subtle background sounds, the delicate chirps and rustling leaves, his mind remained perfectly quiet. He sank further into relaxation, reaching a depth he had never before experienced. Elias could easily have drifted into sleep here, near the culmination of his water journey. For some reason, however, he didn't succumb completely. It was as if he were floating on the very edge of wakefulness, suspended in a cozy, liminal hibernation. He welcomed and thoroughly enjoyed this dreamy daze. Meanwhile, the birds chirped softly, and the leaves rustled their secrets. He concentrated on these sounds, on his breath, on the gentle scent emanating from the lavender pillow resting on his eyes. There were no thoughts, only pure serenity. His chest rose with another full, deep inhalation, then fell. Elias lay in perfect stillness. He felt profoundly happy, utterly calm in this cherished moment. The only task required of him was to breathe, in and out. Eventually, Solana entered the room with hushed footsteps. She touched his shoulder gently and inquired if he was awake. Had she arrived just 2 minutes later, sleep would surely have claimed him. He grinned, the simple act awakening the muscles in his face, signaling to Solana that he was ready for whatever came next. With one hand, she carefully removed the lavender eye pillow from Elias's face. He was delighted to see the familiar silver tray held in her other hand. This time, it bore a small ceramic cup filled with steaming green tea, nestled beside a granola square generously coated in dark chocolate. She offered it to him while explaining they were about to enter the final room. Elias nodded, accepting the treats and enjoying their simple deliciousness. On their way to this last destination, Solana described it in enticing detail. The room housed multiple pools, and this part of the experience came with an invitation of unlimited time. Elias's eyes lit up at this news. Solana confirmed that he could spend the remainder of the day there if he so desired. Entering the final chamber, Elias beheld 3 tranquil pools. Each possessed its own unique character in temperature, shape, and water features. With a playful twinkle in her eye, Solana likened the pools to a magical fairy tale. Sensing Elias's curiosity, she elaborated, "Some say the plunge pool is too cold. The whirlpool, to some, is too hot. But the last pool," she gestured towards it, "where you can enjoy a waterfall and a back massage feature. That one is just right." Elias was free to try all 3 or just 1 or 2. The choice was entirely his. Elias weighed his options The allure of the just right pool was undeniable. He decided he would start there, and perhaps, if it proved as wonderful as it appeared, he might end there too. Solana left him then, granting him complete solitude to enjoy his time. Elias entered the pool slowly, allowing the water to envelop him fully. Its temperature felt perfectly attuned to his own body. He swam leisurely towards the back massage feature. Thick streams of water pulsed rhythmically from multiple spouts set into the wall. He pressed his back against the therapeutic currents and closed his eyes, reveling in the sensation for several long moments. Afterwards, he decided a lap or two might be pleasant. Nothing strenuous. It felt good simply to move his arms and legs through the water, the gentle resistance calming, reminding Elias to embrace slowness, not just in the pool, but in the broader currents of life. He turned over onto his back, floating effortlessly. With his ears submerged, the ambient sounds of the spa, the birdsong, the rustling leaves, faded away. All that remained was the intimate sound of his own breathing, a steady rhythm, in and out. Elias floated lazily, his hands and feet sculling gently back and forth in the perfectly tempered water, appreciating the profound solitude. There was no one else around. He had the entire expansive space to himself. It truly was just right, echoing the simple wisdom of the fairy tale. It served as a quiet reminder that everything in life requires a delicate balance. As he drifted slowly through the water, he remained acutely aware of his relaxed, even breathing. In and out. In and out. And in that suspended moment of perfect stillness, Elias knew he had found something more profound than just peace and tranquility. He had also discovered a perfect balance within himself, a harmony between mind and body. Floating peacefully, a gentle smile touched his lips at this realization. His travels had only just begun, yet he had already unearthed a precious discovery here, in the heart of the water's embrace. A sense of equilibrium that felt indelible, a treasure he would carry with him forever. Kaito, a man whose hands knew the earth better than any book, toiled in the fields flanking his village, nestled in the folds of Japan's green hills. One afternoon, the sky wept abruptly, a sudden downpour chasing him and his fellow cultivators from their labor. With mirthful cries echoing against the drumming rain, they sought refuge beneath the sprawling ancient arms of a colossal cedar. Safe within this wooden sanctuary, damp but undeterred, they decided the interruption warranted an early repast. As raindrops drummed a gentle rhythm on the dense canopy overhead, they shared food and drink, conversation meandering easily, the comfortable current of long acquaintance flowing between them. Amidst his meal, Kaito noticed a flicker of color. A small butterfly, wings like painted silk, had braved the rain, alighting delicately upon his knee. His hand moved instinctively to brush it away, but a weathered farmer nearby stayed his movement. "Ah," the old man murmured, his voice raspy like dry leaves. "The butterfly. It carries the human spirit. When we slumber, our souls drift, taking wing as these creatures, weaving the very fabric of our dreams." A curious notion, Kaito mused. belief didn't settle easily, yet he let the fragile creature rest undisturbed. Moments later, glancing down, he found it had vanished as silently as it appeared. Soon, a pleasant warmth spread through Kaito, fueled by hearty soup and glutinous rice. Contentment settled deep within him. He leaned his head back against the cedar's immense trunk, the soft drone of his friends' voices a soothing lullaby. His thoughts began to unmoor, drifting on the gentle tide of conversation. Effortlessly, sleep claimed him. He surfaced slowly, drawn back towards awareness. The thought lingered. How pleasant to sleep beneath a great tree, awakening to the clean, resinous perfume of cedar carried on the air. But as Kaito lay against the yielding bark, a stillness registered. The familiar cadence of his friends' talk, their easy laughter, gone. He opened his eyes. He was utterly alone amongst the gnarled, exposed roots of the massive tree. No soul stirred nearby. Only the persistent drip, drip, drip of water falling from leaf to patient leaf broke the quiet. His friends, he reasoned, must have simply returned to the fields, leaving him to his repose. Yet, scanning the surroundings, he saw no sign of them. The rain had softened, but now a pale mist coiled amongst the trees, blurring the edges of the world, making distance uncertain. With each passing breath, the fog seemed to coalesce, thickening into an opaque curtain. Kaito strained his eyes, peering into the densest part of the vapor. Shapes emerged, indistinct at first, resolving into figures walking towards him. A procession, large and stately. As they drew nearer, their attire banished any thought of his farming companions. Such lustrous silks, such intricate gold pins fastening raven hair, such ornate sandals. These were not the garments of field workers. Recognition dawned. Royalty approached. He scrambled upright, folding himself into a deep, respectful bow. The procession's leader, an older man whose eyes held a lively sparkle, approached and bade Kaito rise. The obeisance was unnecessary, he explained kindly. They were emissaries, dispatched by the realm's queen herself. They sought him specifically, requiring his aid in a matter of grave importance. Kaito straightened, taking in the full, breathtaking spectacle of the entourage. Each figure was cloaked in robes of crimson and gold brocade that whispered with every slight movement. Their hair, uniformly black as polished obsidian, was sculpted into elaborate arrangements. An invisible cloud of fragrance enveloped them, the most exquisite perfume Kaito had ever encountered. With every inhalation, his senses swam in its complexity. Warm cinnamon, clove, and cardamom mingled with the sweet breath of hibiscus, lilac, and jasmine, sharpened by notes of orange and pomegranate. This celestial aroma seemed to travel with them, an olfactory announcement of their noble presence. What could such an august assembly possibly need from him? A mistake, surely, he protested. He was merely Kaito, a tiller of soil. Yet if they had journeyed so far, he would offer what little assistance he could. The old man smiled, a warm, reassuring expression. There was no error, he affirmed. The queen had requested Kaito by name. They beckoned him forward. Bewildered, but swayed by their unwavering certainty, Kaito found himself unable to refuse. He joined their ranks. They paused, granting him privacy to exchange his rough-spun clothes for robes of azure and silver they had brought. The traditional attire, they explained, for a guest of the queen. Slipping into the garments, Kaito had to concede, if they were mistaken, their intended recipient must be his perfect double. The robes fit flawlessly, as if tailored for his very frame. Thus began the journey towards the queen, Kaito trailing in their wake, awestruck. He walked, marveling at the feel of the silk against his skin. Impossibly light and soft, he expected it to offer scant protection from the damp mist, yet it held a warmth comparable to his thickest cotton tunic. The sandals, too, were surprisingly comfortable, cushioning his steps as if he trod on air. Lost in the sensory richness of his new reality, he barely registered the passage of time or distance until they stood before the gates of a vast, imposing palace. Guards clad in crimson and gold armor swung the portals open, and they passed within. The queen's chamber was a trove of splendors beyond Kaito's wildest imaginings. Tapestries woven from threads impossibly fine draped the walls, depicting pivotal moments from the kingdom's annals in luminous detail. Every span of the floor lay hidden beneath plush rugs, soft animal furs, or intricately patterned bamboo mats of peerless quality. High above, the ceiling was pierced by numerous small, delicate glass panes. Kaito pictured himself reclining on a rug at twilight, watching the stars ignite one by one through those crystalline eyes in the roof. The queen herself was arrayed in robes of the purest, most radiant cream fabric Kaito had ever beheld, while his own borrowed silks caught and reflected the lantern light. Hers seemed to possess an inner luminescence. Crimson threads embroidered across the fabric formed clusters of small, round, lychee fruits, rendered with such startling realism that Kaito's mouth watered involuntarily at the sight. Then the queen spoke. Her voice was a low murmur, yet it resonated with indisputable authority. Though barely above a whisper, each syllable carried clearly through the hushed chamber. She revealed they had observed Kaito for some time, admiring his profound understanding of the land and its cultivation. He possessed precisely the qualities needed to rejuvenate a particular jewel of her domain, a small island blessed with rich soil and diligent inhabitants, which had lately fallen into decline. The entire realm, she conveyed, would be indebted if Kaito would consent to serve as its governor. Overwhelmed, uncertain what else to do, he accepted the honor with humble grace. A serene smile touched the queen's lips. Her judgment, she knew, was sound. Kaito spent the ensuing days within the palace walls, preparing for his voyage to the island, which lay cradled in the midst of a wide, flowing river. The shock of his sudden elevation still reverberated within him, but the flurry of preparations left little room for contemplation. The time for departure arrived. Accompanied by several learned advisors, Kaito embarked on his journey. They traversed landscapes that felt like the whole breadth of Japan, rolling over verdant hills, passing through bustling cities and quiet hamlets. The final stage required crossing the great river, a passage made aboard a magnificent wooden vessel whose sails, billowing like clouds, were the same creamy white as the queen's robes. On the ship's deck, Kaito finally allowed his mind to quiet. Standing at the prow, he closed his eyes. He felt the gentle kiss of the sun upon his hands. The fresh breeze threaded through his hair, loose strands dancing across his face. Seabirds exchanged cries overhead, a counterpoint to the soft lapping of water against the hull. The vessel's serene, rhythmic rocking reminded Kaito of his simple hammock back home, swaying in the warm summer air. Before long, the island emerged from the haze, a green jewel on the water. The ship navigated towards the dock. The moment Kaito stepped ashore, he felt the truth of the queen's words beneath his feet. The earth was yielding and damp, alive. Tall, luxuriant grasses carpeted every visible space, and majestic trees soared towards the sky, casting cool, dappled shade. His advisors guided him towards the governor's residence, his designated home and workplace. As they approached the dwelling, the advisors offered apologies, suggesting it must seem modest after the grandeur of the queen's palace. But Kaito, whose world had never extended beyond his family's farmhouse, could scarcely believe the structure before him. Smaller than the palace, certainly, yet it boasted numerous rooms, furnished with unimaginable comforts. Deeply cushioned chairs, soft rugs covering the floors, and a vast bed piled high with feathers. He knew instantly that happiness awaited him here, and his intuition proved correct. Though initially daunted by the weight of his duties over the span of his first year, he came to know the island's people, their rhythms, their needs. Through shared effort, they coaxed forth the first truly bountiful harvest the island had seen in over a decade. To mark this triumph, Kaito hosted a magnificent feast, ensuring every single citizen shared in the celebration. In this manner, the seasons turned. 15 years flowed past like the river surrounding his domain, during which he presided as governor, patiently transforming the island into a thriving haven for its inhabitants. The once wild woodlands were tamed, carefully cultivated into orchards yielding the sweetest plums, cherries, and pears in the land. The fields, formerly neglected, now produced more rice and grain each year than the islanders could possibly consume in 10. Kaito saw to it that the surplus was ferried across the river, sharing the island's prosperity with the entire kingdom. As governor, Kaito earned the deep affection of his people. He adjudicated disputes with fairness and gentle humor. He orchestrated joyous celebrations for births, weddings, and other milestones. He even found moments to return to the soil, hands deep in the earth, practicing the art he knew best: farming. Then, one day, a messenger arrived from the queen. An attendant disembarked from a boat, bearing word for Kaito. It was time for him to return to the place from whence he came. The queen, the attendant assured him, would forever cherish his contribution to the island's revival, as would its grateful populace. A pang of sorrow struck Kaito. This place had become a true home. That evening, however, his advisors surprised him with a farewell gathering of unparalleled splendor. The food, the drink, the spirited dancing. It surpassed any festivity he had yet witnessed on the island. When the last echoes of the revelry faded and Kaito had bid farewell to the final guest, he sought his bedchamber. He sank into the immense feather mattress, feeling it yield and embrace him like a warm hug. Consciousness began to fray, drifting towards the shores of sleep. But before succumbing, he cast one last look upward. Upon his arrival, he had requested a single modification to his quarters: the installation of small, delicate glass panes in the ceiling, allowing him to watch the stars emerge. Gazing at them now, he saw their distant, cold sparkle against the velvet dark. Within moments, Kaito slept. The following morning, the queen's attendant escorted him to the dock. The boat waited, silent upon the water, poised to carry them back to the mainland. Kaito took a final, lingering look at the island as he boarded: the flourishing orchards, the fertile fields, the prosperous village nestled in the distance. The anchor was raised. The journey began. As they pulled away from the shore, a fog began to roll across the water. It was dense, yet strangely not cold. It felt warm and soft, like being wrapped in a cotton blanket. Soon, visibility shrank to mere feet. Overwhelmed by the enveloping whiteness, Kaito closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the boat was gone. He was back beneath the giant cedar, his old friends gathered around him. He blinked, disoriented, running his hands over the soil, still cool and damp from the earlier rain. One of the farmers chuckled at his bewildered actions. "Enjoy your nap, Kaito?" he inquired. Slowly, Kaito asked, How long was I asleep?" The farmer regarded him with a puzzled expression. "Only a short while, 10 minutes perhaps." Then Kaito recounted his experience: the regal procession emerging from the mist, the opulent palace, the queen's chamber, the island governance, the 15 years that felt utterly real. The other men listened intently, their faces rapt. When he finished, breathless, he asked them what it could possibly signify. Uncertainty rippled through the group. They began to murmur amongst themselves, puzzling over the tale. Their discussion was cut short by a quiet voice. It was the old farmer, the one who had spoken of the butterfly. His tone was as soft as wind sighing through tall grass. he explained that he had watched Kaito doze against the tree. Precisely as sleep overtook him, a small yellow butterfly had fluttered out from Kaito's tunic near his heart. The other men nodded confirmation. They too had seen the butterfly, though not its point of origin. The old farmer continued his account. Kaito's butterfly had settled briefly on the cedar's bark before several ants approached it. Gently, the tiny insects grasped the butterfly and carried it down into a small opening at the base of the massive trunk. Mere minutes later, the butterfly had reappeared from the very same hole and flown back into Kaito's tunic, just moments before he stirred and awoke. Perhaps this, the old man suggested, offered an explanation for the vivid dream of the procession, the queen's domain, and the island governorship. Kaito and the others exchanged glances, a shared understanding dawning. There was one way to be certain. Carefully, together, they eased away some of the damp earth near the cedar's base. There, nestled amongst the roots, they uncovered a small ant colony. One section immediately caught Kaito's eye. It was a patch of earth cloaked in a vibrant green moss. The recent rain had carved a tiny channel around it, creating a miniature stream that gave the mossy patch the distinct appearance of an island. And floating in that minuscule current was a delicate boat fashioned from twigs and a sliver of bark. With gentle hands, the farmers replaced the disturbed earth, careful not to disrupt the tiny world further. By now, the rain had ceased entirely. After a few more words exchanged in quiet wonder, the men dispersed, returning to their fields. But Kaito would never forget that afternoon. For the remainder of his days, the memory of his time as the island's governor would remain, a cherished, secret warmth. Each day spent plowing, sowing, and reaping under the sun, he would feel the echo of silk robes on his back. Every bite of fruit would taste infinitesimally sweeter, recalling the harvest feasts. And carried on every breeze, he would catch the faint, imagined scent of the wide river embracing his island home. And it almost goes without saying that before Kaito finally left the shelter of the great cedar that day, he placed half of his uneaten lunch near the entrance to the ant colony. A final, silent offering of gratitude to his hosts, the architects of a wondrous adventure, a dream given fleeting substance.